as a social entrepreneur, I'm always thinking about what drives people to do the work that they do, and particularly I'm always look on the lookout for social entrepreneurs who in so many ways, like me, wake up each day trying to make this world a different place and trying to leave this world a better place than we found it. And so my guest today is a very interesting guest. He holds three doctoral degrees. He's got a doctor of philosophy. He's a doctor of theology, and he's got a PhD in social sciences and research methods. Holds an MBA and holds a pharmaceutical degree. He has been a man that's been trailblazing here in Vancouver, doing a lot of work through his organization to provide education, develop capacity, as well as providing counseling support, as well as necessary support to immigrants and refugees who are moving into Canada. He started an organization called the Kingdom X Foundation that has been, promoting healthy lives for individuals, through, a food bank, providing food through a food bank, providing support such as, the basic necessities that, folks need to live a decent and humane life, such as access to shelter, access to clothing, as well as, supporting, individuals that have issues with substance abuse. And his organization has also been working, to carry out social research projects across Canada, highlighting issues that Black, Indigenous, as well as people of color have been facing. And so, doing so many things, so many wonderful things. Join me today as I speak to my guest today on Voices Less Heard. I have the pleasure to speak to Dr. Godwin Ude, who is the founder and executive director of the Kingdom X Foundation. Join us as we speak about what drives him and his passions. Dr. Ude, welcome to the show. Really excited to have you over joining us today and to the conversations that we're going to have. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pimak. Glad to be with you on this podcast.
Fantastic. So now I don't know how to how to define you as an individual, or to define the work that you do in the community, because you do a lot. So Dr. Ude, for my listeners, and I know we've done a short intro already, but is a man that holds 3 doctoral degrees, an MBA, as a bachelor's in pharmacy, is also a clinical therapist. Amazing, all of this. So I'll start with that, in fact. So what inspired your academic journey?
Well, it's about finding solutions. I wanted to find solutions to problems around me.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I was driven by the same passion, surrounded by a lot of people who were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to solve the problem, starting from my own family. I wanted to support my parents.
Yeah.
I was born as the first son of a family of 15 people, or 15 kids.
Wow.
So my mom alone had 10 of us, 5 boys, 5 girls. Then my father had a second wife who had 5 kids. So
unbelievable.
In a typical African setup, as the first son, it's your responsibility to train your siblings. That's what happens in my part of Africa. Yeah.
And so, man. I thought I knew you, but also unbelievable, because I'm number 8 of 15, and my father had 2 wives too.
Look at it. So we have a lot in common,
So So look at that. Now, it's interesting, and it's about you, really. This show, just to really get where you get inspiration from, but really interesting to see how we draw these parallels, right, in this particular life. And so, tell me, what was growing up like in being in such a large family?
Yeah, there were some good and wonderful side to it. There was also some not so good.
Yeah.
The good side of it was that you are always surrounded by people.
Yeah.
You're always being challenged by others who are striving to be better. And as a young person, you realize that you have a lot of responsibilities, which bring some level of discipline, because you see before you something that needs to be done, and you realize you really don't have to play around like everyone else. And so that situation really brought a level of discipline to me. And then the not so good part of it was that there was never enough of anything.
Tell me about
it. So not enough of money, not enough of clothing, not enough of attention, not enough of anything. So as a young kid, I had to make up my mind to do with little, or sometimes nothing.
I understand that.
And that has helped me to survive even in situations that others complained and many gave up. I felt that with little, that I can accomplish much because I grew up with little.
Wow. And so talk about accomplishing much. I mean, having 3 doctoral degrees is such an amazing feat, and it's such an amazing accomplishment. And even moving from just having those academic credentials behind you, I recognize and see the work that you're doing in community, right? Here in British Columbia, in Vancouver in particular, and in Surrey, right? In the particular locale that you run programs in. Now, so tell me a little bit about what inspired your move from back home, from Nigeria to Canada. What was that like? What inspired that?
Yes, I was preparing myself to pursue a master's in public health because I wanted to be able to make policies that would help the marginalized, the impoverished, and the struggling people. I was always drawn to the people who struggle. And I was a missionary while I was on campus, as well as a great leader. I was the leader of one of the largest Christian organizations while I was on campus.
Where was this back in Nigeria?
It was in Nigeria, yeah. So I was heading one of the biggest student movement. So, and I worked with an organization, a big religious organization called Assemblies of God. And I helped to plant churches for them in places where nobody wanted to go. So getting into those communities opened my eyes. I saw people who were struggling. They were poor, people who never really had 1% of what I had, and yet I was lacking. So it humbled me. It humbled me. So when I came back from most of those experiences and outside of my locality, going to cross-cultural ministries and outreaches, I found out that there's no way I could just sit in a cubicle dispensing drugs or pharmaceutical. That life is much more spent for me doing something bigger than just, being in a hospital or being in a pharmacy. So that was when the passion for practicing pharmacy, died, even while I was still in school.
Oh, wow. So I see that, faith, and you speak of your faith. Faith was an integral part of the work that you were doing. And is that what led you to then get on the plane to come to Canada?
Sure. People may not be aware of that. They think, probably it was because of economic. No, I didn't come to Canada because I was pursuing some economic leverage. No, because when I graduated as a pharmacist, before even my colleagues could get out of their mothers and fathers' basement, I was already stabilized. I was well-to-do. That means I had a full-time job. I had cars. I had real estate. I was into equity. I was at 25. I was already made.
You were fully established.
I was fully established because I had responsibility, so I had no time to waste.
I mean, you've got a family of 15 and you was 15 siblings, and there's no time to waste. There's no time to goof around or do any jokes.
So immediately I left school. I was out there in the streets. I was making contacts. I was pushing myself. I was doing things ordinary young men wouldn't want to do. I had submitted myself to mentorship. I was being mentored professionally, and I was being mentored spiritually. At the same time, I was being mentored in financial management. I had mentors who I submitted to, who taught me so much that within that short time, I accomplished a lot. I was established.
Wow. And then moving to Canada?
Yeah. So coming to Canada was one day I was leading, because I've always been a leader all my life, always. So when you graduate from the university, they allow you to do a 1-year national service.
Okay. Yep.
But for those of us who read pharmacy,
National Youth Service, right?
Yeah. Now, for those of us who read professional courses, we had to do 1-year internship before going for the 1-year service.
National service. Yep.
So when I finished my internship, I had a full-time job, but I shouldn't. I wasn't supposed to get that job. It was just a try. I didn't know what happened. I was just bored one day, so I found an application and I applied. I found the job offer, I applied, and they hired me right away, and I was shocked. So 2 months later, I told them, "I'm really sorry. I didn't know you guys will hire me. I have not done my national youth service." The company refused to release me. They said, go there. We'll pay you your full salary. You just represent
whilst you're
us
doing
there.
your service. Wow, that's amazing.
So while I was doing my youth service, so while I was doing my youth service, the entire Christian body elected me as their leader. We're talking about graduates from all across the nation who were serving in that particular state. They grabbed me from where I was working in the clinic, and people who had already met me on campus realized who I was. So they forced me to be the leader.
Come, let's,
so that was now the reason why when my managing director, who had so much political influence, wanted to bring me back to the head office instead of the state where I was posted, I rejected it. I said no, because I have a stronger and a bigger assignment in this state, which I am willing to give up this job to handle it.
And so that what you call your bigger assignment had emerged from what? From just this call for leadership, right, within the ministry? Was that really what impacted you? Okay.
Yes, because now because this has always been my passion. Now I have close to 1,000 young men and women who have just left the university. Some of them have just finished their internship or housemanship. And they are now doing their 1-year service. And these young men were looking up to me for direction. Little me, but they will gather like hundreds of them, sometimes 500 in conferences and meetings. They were under my leadership. So why would I leave that and go back to my head office and be, doing pharmaceutical work? So that opportunity to lead these young people was bigger than anything. So I was ready to sacrifice.
Sure. So I'm piecing, together as you narrate your story here, and as our listeners will know that this podcast is about voices less heard, right? Bringing to the forefront voices of people that are doing extraordinary things. I call them ordinary people doing extraordinary things. But certainly, with due respect, none of my guests are ordinary people. They're really, really extraordinary people doing fantastic things. And one of the things that I know too, right, from your bio and some of the work that you have done, is that so you moved to Toronto, to Ontario, and you started leading a ministry there.
Yes. So just to connect the dots, so at the point where I was about completing my journey within this locality where I was posted, where I was doing my national youth service, is actually a state in Nigeria. So I had led my team. We had traversed that state. Everywhere we went to, we had victories, we had successes, and we had mentored some of these young graduates. Some of them started businesses, some of them expanded, some of them bought cars, some of them started, relationship. We just impacted some of these kids. It was an amazing experience for me. So it was at that moment, while I was there, that the Lord spoke to me. I hear from Him. I've been a believer since I was around 10 years old. So, He said He was going to take me outside of the country to a place where He would need my services. And I wasn't really ready for that. But
are we ever ready when that call comes?
No, you never. You just, So it happened like that, and I was wishing it away. Then one day, I had a young man who came to preach for me. So while he was speaking, he looked at me straight. He looked at me intently, and he spoke the same thing. Within a year, events orchestrated themselves, and that was how I came in here. Because when I was in university, I had met my wife, and she worked with me as my financial secretary when I was the president of my fellowship.
So hold on. So you are the boss. You find so was she working for you as a boss until what was going on there? I want to hear that story. Let's not move past it quickly.
It was really very funny because we were never really close, or boyfriend, girlfriend, because there was no time for that. When you have about 14 kids behind you,
and you've got a mission.
You don't talk about marriage or girlfriend or boyfriend. You just want to succeed. You just want. So I had no time for that. So she just walked and did her job. That was it. But then I found out something very unique about her, because she was first and foremost very, very dedicated. Not to anybody, but to the Lord Himself. So she was so dedicated to the Lord. And there's something strange for young ladies who are driven by fashion, by pleasure and money,
wanting the good things in life.
Good things, But then finding someone who is so focused on pleasing the Lord, regardless of the situation, who has reverential fear for God, who is trustworthy. So some of these things were things that set her apart. So I commended her for that, because I was also leading other universities when I was on campus.
So at that time, were you searching? Were you actively searching for a partner?
No.
Okay.
No, because I left university when I was still maybe 24. 24, 23. So there was never, and I was looking at
that wasn't the
marriage.
Focus. So you're not looking at that marriage was
no.
Okay.
No. You know what I'm talking about. People want to survive. Our goal then was to survive. So it's not to make friends. Nobody had time for that. We just wanted to survive. So, but you have to have good friends, good people around you. So because of my position, I had some great people around me, who worked with me So I was able to get to know some of them, and they got to know me too. So it was 4 years later after we left the university, when all these prophecies and all this, this big vision and big responsibilities were coming to me, just telling me, get ready, get prepared. I'm moving you out of this place. And of course, when things like that happen, you open your tentacles to opportunities. Yes, there were a lot of opportunities. Sometimes I had somebody who was sending me money, from US, a lady, so I had to say, look, if this is, this is a seed you are sowing into my life as somebody who's been praying and counseling, fine, but I'm not interested.
I'm not interested in you.
So, So just, and I don't even know the person, from that. Just, I saw you, so there were quite a couple of, when you're at that level where I was, you will definitely have a lot of, distractions.
People that are interested and, distractions, as you call them. Okay.
So you got to be very sensitive and very careful. And always
fantastic.
So
sure. So I know we have limited time for podcasting. So what I want to do is move you to the time that you landed. You're here in Canada. Where did you land, and what was the mission then?
So I got married to my wife. That was in 2004. So she moved over here. So later I came in and I joined her November 2004. So we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. So I thought I could practice pharmacy for some time. So I decided to start the process
of
so it was one of
getting your qualifications regularized and equated.
So one afternoon like that, it was December 2004. The Lord spoke to me. This might sound strange to people who are not in the faith. They'll be wondering what I'm talking about, but that was really true. So I had him one afternoon when I was reading, and he said, I want you to leave this. I said, leave this? So how am I going to survive? How am I going to pay my bills? He said, leave this. I will pay you and take care of you more than any pharmaceutical company will ever do. It was clear. It was direct. I cried that day. I cried because I found myself in a situation where life was uncertain. I didn't know what the future held for me. But I had to obey, so I gave up. And I surrendered myself to whatever may come. At that moment, there was an organization that we were part of. They needed a youth counselor. They needed a youth mentor. Because the last one had resigned by so many crises. So they called on me and said, look, since you had experience leading young people, leading graduates, leading youth,
can you come in and do this?
And at that moment, the federal government was also begging organizations, religious organizations, youth leadership to step up because there was crisis in Toronto then. It was crisis of drug-related war, young people killing themselves, homicide. It was a big thing. You could read it on newspaper. If you research 2004, Jane and Finch, just research about Jane and Finch in Toronto. I lived around that area.
Community.
Yes. So there were a lot of young people, most of them from immigrant communities, black people from Nigeria, Africa, Jamaican, Sudanese, Somalians. It was messed up. So this was the crisis that drew me into the social sector. So I stepped in alongside with my wife and we began to work with these young people. We started basketball programs, we started music programs, we started mentoring programs, we started business programs, we started talent development, and we were able to really do a lot of work with these young people. So that was how I found myself quickly within the same few months, maybe within the same month I came to Canada, I found myself in the social sector again and started working with young people. And that was how my journey began from Toronto. We went to London, Ontario, where we dealt with a lot of people with addiction.
Yeah.
So it was.
And so that core really essentially is what brought you into this field.
Yes.
Of, doing social work, social related work. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that at that stage that you started your academic journey on clinical counseling? Yeah.
Yes, okay. That is it. I just wanted to point that out. That when I stepped into this sector, I realized, no. This is a different system altogether. Where I was coming from, I could talk to people. I could, from fundamentally agreed core values.
Yeah.
And I will get them strengthened out. But here I am in a situation where you have conflicting, contradictory value system. Yeah. So I needed the skill because I realized I didn't have it. So I started going to school to do masters in counseling, specializing in youth and family therapy. So I had no money, but I had the credit card. So I was paying every month to go through that program. So that was how my academic journey started.
Wow. And then following that master's in counseling, you then went into your doctoral programs. Were all the three? Did you attend those here in Canada?
No. Because it was easier to go to school in US. US has a lot of schools, so and most of these schools are easier to get into. Not that you're looking for a substandard school, no, but because they have variable ways of helping you, assisting you. Like I couldn't find a school in Canada that would, accept me to be paying a little stipend from my credit card every month. But I found a school in US who could do that. And then I was doing extended lessons, extended courses. So I was, doing my work even while I was working as a youth counselor and a family therapist. In Ontario, yes. So when I finished my master's, it was someone who actually made me move further into doctorate in practical therapy. And this is how my life is. I'm open and I listen and I work with people.
Wow.
He was actually a guy with a lot of alcoholic problem. He was an alcoholic. But he was a great guy. But marital crisis pushed him into alcoholism. He was a good Christian. So he was depending on me for just support, mentoring, coaching, and therapy. But he was the one that literally challenged me that I needed to deepen my study and equip myself. He wasn't an academic. He wasn't even educated that much, but he has been in this area for too long and he could sense. And he said to me, you got to keep reading. You got to keep reading. So, an old man.
Wow, that's fantastic, right? Just, in my life, I've always called those people angels from the outside, right? People that, might not necessarily know exactly what you're doing or your pathway, but, come in for a brief particular, period of time or however long a time that is and say or put you on a path that becomes very consequential for your own life, right?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So I see.
It's part of the thing I teach people, I say. Leadership is about communication. Communication is about listening. Anytime there are no two-way communication, then you are not a leader. You are a boss. So I have been in leadership all my life because I developed that skill to listen, no matter who you are. Because you could learn a lot from people that others despise.
Yeah, that you would ordinarily want, in your case, you mentioned someone who had this substance misuse disorder, right? And alcohol, but you listened and look at you where you are now, right?
Yeah. I mean, he would drink himself to stupor, and he would call me early in the morning to come and carry him from where he went to drink, and I would go and pick him up.
Yeah.
Then the following day, he will meet me in the office, and we want to go out for an outreach to go and help other people. He will listen to me speak, and he will write down all the mistakes I've made.
Yeah.
He will bring the mistakes to me and say, "This is what you did wrong. You got to fix this."
Wow. So
everybody despised him, but he was the closest guy I had.
Wow. That's amazing. And so you spent a brief time or a period of time in Ontario, and then you moved to BC. I want to focus now a little bit on the background and the foundations of the organization that you're running now, which is the Kingdom X Foundation. What was then? So we have, and our listeners do have sort of this background now of understanding, okay, your pathway, you came from a big family, and that influenced your desire to work hard and desire to succeed. And then meeting angels along the way that helped you to, be who you are and get where you are in terms of academics, as well as the social work that you're doing. So you now have this, when I look at your organization, perhaps call it a social enterprise. You now have this enterprise, this organization that you're running. What was the genesis of it, and why BC and not Manitoba, and not Newfoundland and Labrador, or one of the territories? Why BC in particular?
Yes, because, like I said, I don't make decisions just by what I see. No. I am led by the Spirit of the Lord. Let me use that one. Not the same way people say, "Oh, the Lord told me." No. It's something that I have developed. That relationship have been developed since I was a kid. So, do you know my dad never sat me down to counsel me one day? No. He will always tell me, "You always know what to do." That's what he said. He said to me, from the time I gave birth to you, I realized that you always know what to do.
Yeah.
So he was always shocked that every decision I made was always right. Yeah. So instead of seeing me as a kid, he started treating me as an adult, even as a child. And so because I learned how to listen and how to follow divine instructions. So while in London, Ontario, some events happened, and I just wanted to step away from all of this and have some level of, have some rest, because it was it was wearing me out, because I was always a busy person. So, but I was conscious of my next step. So I had to wait to get direction for my next step.
Yeah.
So it was while I was waiting that I got an instruction to move over to BC.
Okay.
Not that I carried my bags and moved over here. Like I've always said, when you receive a divine instruction, then wait, God will orchestrate the event. So when I got that instruction, that divine instruction, it was actually April 2010. So I had to wait. I kept waiting because I didn't know how to proceed. Then June 2010, I got a call. And it was from an organization that I worked with. They said to me, "Please, we know that this is difficult. We know that nobody will ever want to do this. In our organization, someone like you has passed the stage of what we are asking you to help us do. Please, there is a crisis in BC. We need you to come to BC and help us." You see that? Because they have tried to set up something here in BC and it collapsed. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
And there was no other person in the organization who they trusted could handle the challenge.
Could support. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they said, please, that they want me to come to BC.
Yeah.
What they didn't know was that months ago, I've already received an instruction.
You had started. Yeah. Wow.
That I had to wait.
So this served as a confirmation for you in some ways. Would you say that?
Of course, yes, because you see, you don't want to burn any bridge.
Yeah.
People are always so quick to act. No, if God tells you something, ask him, how do you want to get this done? He will tell you. Sometimes he's going to tell you, wait. You wait. He will orchestrate the event.
Okay.
You don't even need to do anything. He will orchestrate the event that will usher you into that.
Okay.
So that was
I know that some of my listeners on my podcast will be wondering, who is God and what God, and how do you hear this voice and how did that happen? And so I'm also mindful of that, and so wanting to have just a conversation that also helps to unpack, a bit of the work that you have done, right? And also be able to showcase, some of the initiatives I think that have been really vital for not only newcomers and refugees, but certainly the youth work that you've been leading in BC, and helping kids to stay off drugs and helping kids to stay in school and be mentored and then sort of be supported. And I want you to speak about that. So you arrive in BC, so you're working for this organization, and this is before the establishment of Kingdom Light Sunday. So you come in, you work for this organization?
Yes. So we come in, we started working here with we established our office right there in Wale. That was where we started, right there in Wale. And we started working with the drug addicts. We started working with, families, refugees from different parts of the world, especially from Africa. And then we have indigenous people. We started working with them. And within a while, we had a huge movement, a huge operation going on. But after a year, I realized that there was a need to move beyond just statistics to focus on really impacting the lives of people and expanding what we're doing. But what happened was that when I arrived here and I saw the need here in Surrey and as far as in Hastings, in East Hastings, in Vancouver, So I went there, I saw the need, and I was troubled. I couldn't sleep. That night. That was when I had to find a school that is well equipped and properly structured to train me in the area of social services, social transformation. So I went online and I found a school, and it was in US. So I called them and I said, look, do you guys offer this course about community transformation? And they said, yes, that's what we do. We do social research. We are here to help and teach people how to be multidisciplinary and integrate their experiences in transforming communities. And I said, oh, great. So that was how I started my third doctorate in social research method. So I went to school because it took me about 4 years, tens of thousands of dollars. But the school really taught me a lot and helped me to launch what you call today as Kingdom Light Foundation. So it started in 2013, but it was an international operation. So later, we decided. So
you say, when you say it was an international operation, so I just want to go back a little bit. So you start this organization in 2013, and your focus is not BC, but yet earlier your calling was to come to BC to support. What had happened there? What informed you?
The focus wasn't BC. It was just lack of No, because I never knew when we started. I didn't know there was any. I didn't know anything about grants or funding or support. I have no idea of all those things. I didn't know. So all these years, I've always been the one paying the bills because I had to learn how to do digital marketing. So I did network marketing. I had the e-commerce business. Actually, was designing, manufacturing products from China, importing them to Canada and selling them on an Amazon platform. That was how I kept my family, myself, and even the work afloat. Yeah. So I never knew that there is any support for people who do stuff like this, or even from any government. You know. So, but because I had great friends who are my colleagues, they said to me, "You do a lot of good work. We want to support you." You know. So why not have a foundation so that we can galvanize our friends to help support it? So I listened because I've helped some of them, so they wanted to help more with me. So that was how CAF was initially an international operation to allow all my colleagues and partners around the world to help with the work. You know, but then in 2018 there was a difficult problem that affected one of our community families. So we stepped in, and it was a challenge that I felt should be challenged too. It has to do with foster care. It has to do with things that I felt that there was nobody representing us, nobody representing our communities. So I had to step in, or raise the team, worked with the ministry to make sure that that issue is rectified, and that there's a cultural context to how we solve
the issues that was
problem.
affecting that family.
Yeah. So the challenge I was given was, but we don't know you. You don't have any organization. You don't. I said, no, I have one. Yeah. So I had to now domesticate calf. You know, domesticating calf. We had to start preparing ourselves. I raised the team. We were able to bring the young guy. We were able to establish him, and he's doing well right now. Yeah. So the following year, COVID came, and there was a whole lot of food insecurity, a lot of other social crises, you know. So everything just came together, and that was when we began to scale our operations, scale our activities, and today it's come beyond.
So in so many ways, you say that, you know, the COVID pandemic was, for lack of a better description, was a perfect storm for you, right? Because it helped you to then galvanize community and then begin to create programs.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you are equipped for something, you are prepared for something, and you don't know why you are being prepared for that thing. You find yourself in different situations and in different places, meeting some people and getting involved in some activities without really knowing why. But you have this passion to help. You have this goal. You want to support. You want to touch the lives of people. You know, I remember, you know, you talked about your listeners, you know, saying, you know, this is all about, is it a religious thing? Or, frankly speaking, I don't know about others, but if you are not driven by this deep, unconditional, it's supernatural in a sense, you know, passionate concern for people, you can't last. You won't be able to survive what we survive, you know, even what we are surviving today. So when people see what we do and they think maybe we have millions of dollars of budget. No, we've actually been rejected in some, when we wanted to join some organization, because they thought our budget was so small, but we're doing so many things, and they're wondering,
how are you doing it? How are you managing to do all of that?
Yeah,
so tell me,
that,
how are you managing to do all of this work then? If you don't have the budgets, if you don't have the money, I mean, of course, you're talking about this supernatural vision and ability, but how do you translate that to the real work that's being done? How?
Because it is not. This is not just about social services. It's about a deep-seated concern and passion to help the less privileged. So remember, we've been doing these things with our own sweat. I'm talking about, like, personally, I work 18 hours a day. I'm talking about while everybody's sleeping, I'm still at work. Because for me, that was the only way to support what we're doing.
Okay.
So if you could accomplish so much on your own, imagine what you could do with just a little support.
Right.
Yeah. So this is what scares people when they come in contact with us and they see the scale and the magnitude of what we're doing. And they're like, how are you guys able to do this with this tiny bit of stuff?
Okay, so that's interesting. So I wanna turn to one of the programs that you run out in Surrey to support community, which is your food bank program. How did you conceptualize that? And what was there a gap? I know there are organizations that exist within your community that support with in food security, etc. Why did you begin to do that? Or why not join or support another organization that was doing that particular program, the food bank? What was the genesis behind all of that?
Yeah. First, you have to always respond to the needs. In program design, you don't solve a problem that does not exist. First, you have to find out what gaps exist because you can see the impact of that gap. So we found out that there was this high level of food insecurity in our community. But we live in a system that does not really understand the density and the depth of this problem because there's an assumption.
Yeah, but I would argue that whether it's local, provincial, or federal government does identify organizations and community leaders that are addressing some of these issues, right? And so when you say that they don't recognize the depth, what depth, what are they not picking up, right? So when it comes, for example, to food security, what is it that they are not doing that you would want resources or maybe you would want them to fully commit towards?
Yes. That's why we're involved in advocacy. That's why if you get to our website, you see that from the onset, you're going to see there is an inefficient, not that the solution or solutions are not there, but the solutions are not sufficient.
Okay,
and they are inefficient. Yeah, they are not sufficient and they are inefficient, and the solutions are not culturally appropriate, not sensitive to demographical changes. So you can expect that suddenly the policymakers will understand that a gap exists because somebody has to voice these things out. Somebody has to say, I'm in the midst of this and I have proof. I have empirical evidence. That's why we do social research. That's why we don't talk. We use data. When we started talking about food insecurity about 4 or 5 years ago, people thought it was a joke. People thought, we have all this. But today, 1 in 5 Canadian is suffering from food insecurity. 8.7 million Canadians. This is statistics Canada I'm quoting right now. 22.9% of Canadians are struggling with food insecurity. It wasn't like that 3 years ago. Nobody would listen to us when we were pointing this out. When we established CAF Food Bank, people didn't believe us. They thought, there is already a lot of food programming here,
Yep.
And we were saying, you guys don't understand what's going on here. There are people who are one paycheck away from bankruptcy. There are people who have been evicted because they can't pay their rent because they have to eat.
Well, so we go back, and one would argue that, the federal government and the provincial governments have in so many ways tried to address that, right? So you've got Food Bank Canada, and then you've got Food Bank BC, which are creations of, the federal government and the province to try and address some of these issues. Is that still not enough?
Yeah, those are wonderful programs. That's to show you that the government is doing their best. But you understand the government cannot work alone. The government needs grassroots organizations voicing out what challenges they encounter. They need data. They need grassroots organizations to provide this data. They need policy advocates. They need people with lived experiences. You see, so, and you realize that most people only talk about things because those things bother them or concern them. So what we did was we realized that, look, there are people who are less recognized, whose voices are not being heard because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to communicate the challenges.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because, before we came online, one of the things you were talking to me about was just this recognition that there's so many systemic issues that exist, or in particular when we think about Food Bank BC, or we think about Food Bank Canada and other, and I'm not saying these to call them out, but I'm just saying that, like, there are these institutions that are developed. Perhaps they have, and you mentioned that they probably have structural challenges that limit their agility and their responsiveness to the local needs. Would you agree with that, sentiment that you mentioned earlier on?
Yes. So this is when we wake up. What was the average household income when these structures were set up? What was the poverty rate in Canada when these structures were set up? What kind of client were being attended to when these structures were set up? You have to ask that. What was the population of Canada when some of these structures were set up? Now, fast forward
to where we are now, and so
now,
so I see that. And one of the things also, before I forget, that you mentioned was that there's also a tendency to have a one-size-fits-all approach, right? And you're trying to sort of remove that and say, hey, one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. We need to have, local solutions to local challenges, and we need to ensure that we're addressing perhaps even the rural access difficulties, the issues that go with food deserts that are coming up within the towns and cities. And so again, is this something that you're trying to address as Kingdom Marked Food Bank?
Yes. People who don't know what we do think we just grab food, we give people food. No. We are versatile in our approach. We are operating at a level where we are actually involved in strong advocacy for these local solutions to food security, and our voices are being heard because initially many people did not care about this, but now it's a big problem because people in the academics are writing about it, publishing about it. Some research labs in prominent universities, especially the University of Toronto, there's a research lab called Proof, PROF. They have been publishing a lot of work there. So we are talking about Canada wasting 57% of the food produced in Canada goes to waste. Yet 22.9% of Canadian population are living in food insecure environment. So how do we solve the problem? So that's what we do. So we are involved in food restoration, food upcycling, food rescue, food repurposing. We run every day. We are connecting people who need food with the excess food that should be wasted. We recover them. So our approach is multifaceted. So we don't sit down there waiting for maybe some people come to give us some little donations or come to give us money. No, we're on the phone. We are calling companies. We are calling warehouses. We are calling distribution agents. We are calling farmers. We are reaching out to grocery stores. We are rescuing thousands of pounds of food every month. An average of 60,000 pounds of food that are great, good food. And we are bringing it to people. So we are not just trying to get people to eat. We are saving minimum $500 for each family that goes to our place eight times in a month. We are saving minimum of $500, for that family. Imagine what $500 does.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of money. So that's fantastic. And so I want to turn away from just the food bank model and begin to ask you about the other programs that you have been doing. What else has been your focus, and how have you been championing that work?
Yeah, so we found out there's a high level of inequity. I don't use the word inequality. Inequity.
Yeah.
And most people may call it injustice, but that's a very strong word. Because when you talk about injustice, it's like a deliberate attempt to, marginalize some people. I call it inequity driven by, lack of information to make the right policy. So I'm not one of the proponents of aggressive activism. I'm not an activist. No, I call myself.
You sound like one. Yeah, you speak like one.
Yeah. No, I'm just a social researcher who believes that data, information is more powerful than ordinary activism. Activism must be based on empirical fact, must be based on data. Like if I say that the BIPOC community is disproportionately afflicted and affected by food insecurity, I should have the data. I should have empirical evidence to prove it.
I shouldn't. So is that what CAF is doing as well in terms of creating and doing the
Yeah, that's what we do.
And
we do
how is that data then translated into tangible outcomes for whether it's BIPOC groups or the groups that you serve in your community?
Yes, it's working. It's working. For example, we worked with Ministry of Canadian Heritage. They were the first people that supported us, and we did an empirical research on disinformation within the marginalized Black community. And we did not just narrow ourselves to disinformation. We made sure that the research questions cover things like income, like source of information, source of authority, source of influence. And we also did a comparative analysis with the Asian community to see if there are some similarities. So it was a very comprehensive report, which I presented to the minister, Steve Gigo. Then, I haven't looked. We even surveyed the political alignment of the Black people and also of Asians to see if there are conflicts.
Yeah, but my thing though too, right, is that and I'm a researcher myself too, and many times we do this research, but it doesn't, and present. You present to the minister, you present to policymakers or lawmakers, but it becomes one additional document. It becomes one additional, how have you seen any success in translating these research pieces, documents into tangible laws or into tangible policies that impact the lives of ordinary people in your community, for example?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you seen any particular impact going there?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Because when we finished the research and made the presentation, my MP was there, the minister was there. So I started seeing that most of the reports and recommendations we gave were being implemented. Yes, we started seeing that. We've been implemented. Because you see, it's not enough to do a research from academic perspective. You have to back it up constantly by advocacy, by just showing that this is it. This is because we started saying that the reason why the Black person is disconnected, especially marginalized BIPOC, because we work with the BIPOC community, most especially, not just Black people, is because of lack of representation. So we said, okay, let's talk about the media. Why is it that a huge proportion of Black people are disconnected from the mainstream media? Because they don't see anybody like them there. Their story is being told by somebody who doesn't look like them. So we began to campaign for full representation. Even in government, we began to say we need someone from the BIPOC community to sit in the decision making. I know.
Are you seeing any actions? I mean, any tangible outcomes? Yeah,
it's happening. Yeah, I had a meeting with. I had a meeting with a department. Just for people to understand that these are not mere statements. I had a meeting with a department in Employment and Social Development, Canada. Yeah. So we had a very serious meeting, and it was great that.
So I don't want to cut you off, but there's something that's ringing in my mind, which is, it's one thing to demand space at the table, and then you get the space, how are you then effectively using that space to translate into meaningful, tangible outcomes for the people that you're representing? How are you using that space? Is it demand space, and then once the space is provided, nothing goes on? So what are the next steps, and how do you maintain also having this space is fantastic, but how do you also provide accountability to the people that you say you are representing, whether it's the BIPOC community? How do you then, how are you accountable to them?
The most beautiful thing right now is that most of the BIPOC people in positions of decision making and authority, they have recognized that without them, the voices of their people will never be heard. So once you step in there, you see the need why you are there, except you are disconnected from the community. So from my personal experience, we've been able to interact with some of the people who are in positions of authority. We've been able to raise their consciousness to why they are there. We've been able to provide evidences to them, to show them, this is why you are here. If you don't speak on behalf of the BIPOC group, then don't expect that other people who don't have the lived experiences will be speaking on your behalf, on the behalf of your people. So we have this idea that, we are marginalized, we are, discriminated against, which is okay, which is true. But the question is this: when you don't speak on behalf of your people with evidence, how do you expect somebody who is not connected to you, who don't feel what you feel, how would that person speak on your behalf? So we blame everyone. So when people from our community get into the place of power and authority, they should understand that they are not just there to fill a gap or to meet some statistics, or we are complying with the diversity rule or diversity act or diversity law. That may be the case, but you are there to represent a group whose voices are less heard. Not because they are not shouting, not because they are not talking, but because nobody is amplifying, their voices. So we have had meetings with caucus leaders in Ottawa. So a lot has been happening. Just to share some of this with you, we've had meetings with them, and they have come to realize that, this is why we are here. So now they are connecting with grassroots leaders for consultations to get to understand the dimensions of the challenges that the marginalized communities face, and we've been able to show them through pictures and videos and data and all sorts of
just to indicate, and to show the different challenges, right?
These are the problems. So it's now your turn to go there and then champion the cause and speak on our behalf.
It's interesting. So a whole range of work, right? From starting off as a pharmacist to being a true champion and working, even though you still say you're not an activist, but I'll leave the word activist out, but, to championing the causes of not only Black people, but, people of color as well, here in British Columbia and across Canada. Dr. Godwin Ude, it's been, a pleasure speaking with you. Again, this show is really voices less heard, ordinary people that are doing extraordinary work. And based on what we have, spoken about today, you are a reverend, you're a pastor, you're a brother, you're an uncle, you're a friend to many, you're a counselor, so many hats that you wear. Of all of these hats, which one, as we sign off, which one is your favorite hat?
No, I'm just God's beloved child. That's who I am. No titles, nothing. I just wake up every day. I just say, I'm so happy that I'm a child of God. I mean, people who are not religious may not understand what this means. It means a lot to me that I'm not in charge of my life. Someone is leading, shaping everything. All these things we've shared today didn't happen because of how smart or strategic or how I love or care about people. No, it has nothing to do with, I'm a human being. like everyone else. I have my weaknesses.
Yeah.
But all of this happened because I'm accountable to a higher authority who cares so much about me that he will never let me make mistakes. He will never let me get into trouble. He's always helping me, shielding me, protecting me, and defending me and fighting for me and helping me to help the people that he loves so much and he wants them to be here. So what I do it not because I'm a good person, no, but because the owner of the world who has made all these people cares about them. Muslims, Christians, that's why we serve everyone. People come to our place and they see that our major volunteers are from the Muslim communities, the Sikh communities, and traditionalists, Buddhists, yes. So they're asking, even Jewish people. We serve a lot of, so we have food, halal food, we have kosher food, we have, we partner with Muslim Food Bank. So people often ask, how are you guys able to bring the entire community together to network, to socialize? Because we don't see people the way people see them. We see them the way the one who made them see them. No discrimination. We serve people, and that's what we are known for. That's how we want to operate.
That's fantastic. Dr. Godwin Ude, the Executive Director, the founder and Executive Director of the Kingdom X Foundation. Thank you so much for spending time with me on this podcast, Voices Listed with Dr. PMAC. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on your show.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to the Voices Listed podcast with Dr. PMAC. I hope you enjoyed insights that came out of this conversation. Keep your notifications on. Our next episode will be dropping soon. Thank you and enjoy.